Hey everyone, I'm Coach Chippys and I've been a professional top laner or head coach for the past 8 years. During this time I've reached Worlds and MSI multiple times. Now I'm a full-time coach with a ton of passion towards helping players unlock their potential and climb to their dream rank. How's it going guys? Today I'm going to be teaching you how to play from behind. And I know this is something a lot of my students and top laners in general struggle with because the role and a lot of the matchups are just so snowbally that when you get behind it can feel like there's not much you can do. However, there is a lot I can teach you, especially around the mid game, about how you can impact the map. Even if you're behind in lane, even if you lose your tower, you can still be increasing the win chance of your team, but if you know how to play out the mid game macro correctly. So that's what I'm going to be teaching you in this video, and hopefully that'll help you in your games. Now, to try simplify playing from behind for you, I'm going to be breaking it down into 4 steps, where the first one is going to be identify what your champion wants to be doing. So if you're playing a strong side laning champion, a champion like Fiora, a champion like Garen, champion like Jax, then of course you want to be using the side lane as a way to get back into this game, or at the very least use the side lane to impact the game for your teammates. And then if you're playing a team fighting champion, champ like Ornn, champ like Malphite, even a champ like Cho'Gath or Sion, then you want to be using team fights as a way to get back into the game and helping your team in that aspect. Now that you're aware of what your champion wants to be doing, you now need to compare yourself to your lane opponent in 2 categories. Do I still beat this guy in the side lane despite being behind, or am I more useful than this guy in team fighting? And if you still beat him in the side lane, let's say he's playing a team fighting champion, even though you're behind, you can still beat him and get push, then that's great, it's really easy. You just want to be using your wave to make him react to you, keep him stuck under the tier 2, and playing between the lanes. And I've covered that in detail in another video, and it doesn't really change if you're behind as long as you still win the side lane. However, if you can no longer get push in the side, that's when it gets a lot more difficult, and that's where the 4-step process is going to help you a lot. So if you're playing a side laning champion, and I'll cover team fighters later, but if you're playing a side lane champion and you can't get push, step 2 is you want to be controlling your jungle. You want to be getting vision in your jungle over here and here on blue, or here and here on red side. And the reason you want to be doing that is because if you're versus somebody that knows what they're doing, they're going to keep you stuck under their tier 2. I'm just going to play on blue side for now, keep it easier, and they're going to be fogging between the lanes. And they want to be doing that because they want to impact the game. They want to pressure whoever's mid, your team in some way, using their lead, because most of the time they will not be able to break towers in front of you until it's 3-4 item champions where they have hull breaker. If you're that far behind at 14 minutes into the game when lane phase is over, that they're breaking tier 2 in front of you, then there's not much you can do. And that's very rarely going to happen. I almost never see that. So for the most part, they're going to be controlling the map by keeping you stuck under the tower and playing between the lanes. Now, the reason you want vision to see that is not only so your teammates see what's happening and see them coming, it's because you want to see if they commit. Because what they should be doing is hanging around halfway and then coming back into your lane and keeping you stuck permanently, so you have nothing to do. You have no option in this game. But almost every player I see, they make this mistake where they got a big lead and they want to impact the game straight away, so they're going to look to commit. And once they commit, then you have a timer to use the wave. And even if they don't commit, eventually they're going to base, right? They're going to want to spend their money. They're not going to stay up here forever just giving you farm for no reason. And even if they do, that's fine, right? You're just farming. But for the most part, they're going to leave or they're going to base at some point. And then you want to be using your side laning champion not to follow them and catch up to the team fight late. You want to be pushing your wave all the way in and making them respond. So now that you've got control of the wave because they left, that means you're up in tempo, they now have to answer you. Because if they don't, you're just going to break towers, get money, get back into the game. So at some point, they're going to finish whatever happens here. And if you're nice, you'll backping your team when they're on the way. But for the most part, they're going to finish what they're doing, base, and come out on map and answer you. And now while they're answering you, when you see them, you want to base straight away. Because you can't beat them in the side lane, right? So if they come back and you just hang around here for no reason, they're just going to beat you up. So what you want to be doing is 2 things. If there's a play opportunity where, let's say you're playing a champ like Camille, a side laner that has a good engage, then of course you can look to run down river and fight with your team. But if you're playing a side lane champion like Fiora or Garen and there's no real option, there's no aggressive play happening, then you want to base straight away and head straight back bot and push the wave all the way here. Because now this guy, he has to make the choice again where he's pushing his wave up and he's going to have to answer you at some point. And then if he goes all the way to top, you should send your mid laner to answer that, and now all of a sudden you're making people answer you bot. So even though you're behind, you lost your lane, you lost your tower, you're really struggling in this game because you got full control of your jungle. You saw what he was doing, you could see when he's basing, you could see when he's fogging between the lanes, if he overcommits. Now you have a timer to use the wave to make him react, and as long as you're staying 1 step ahead of him, and by doing that, you're just basing before him and using the wave as fast as you can instead of wasting time, then you're going to have an impact in the game in some way by essentially trying to make it a 4v4. And that's exactly step 3, using the waves to make the game a 4v4. Because realistically, if you're playing a side laning champion and you're weaker than your lane opponent in the side lane and team fights, your best bet to impact the game is to make it so your lane opponent cannot impact the game. And by doing that, you want to be staying up in tempo and using the waves. So step 3 is using the waves to make a game a 4v4, and the way you want to be doing that is from the starting point of when you get really far behind. And every single time I see, almost every single game where you get behind, you've either died and lost your tower, or you've based and lost your tower, right? But that means you've based before him and you're coming back on the map first, because he has to base after breaking the tower and then farming this wave, and even if he stays for a wave or two, he will be basing at some point. Now, as soon as he bases, you are on the map before him. So you want to be using that to push the wave all the way under his tower. And most of the time, I see a lot of top laners make this mistake. They break their tower, they get the wave, they base, and now they feel, oh, I'm so strong, I want to impact the map, where they want to run straight bot, run straight mid. Well, that's not actually worth it unless it's free. Unless there's a free double kill bot, they're playing it insanely aggressive, or there's a free dragon fight to be a part of. It's not really worth giving so much control on the side lane to someone you just beat. However, let's say in the situation where he's smart and he runs back top to answer you, you're still a step ahead of him, right? Because you've pushed your wave all the way to here while he's based and walked, and now he's answering you. And the second you see him respond to you, you want to base instantly. You don't want to be hanging around here fighting him when you know you lose the side lane. You don't want to be just waiting for him to push you under tower. You want to be using your tempo to stay one step ahead of him. So if you base straight away, now all of a sudden you run bot, and you push the wave all the way here, now he has to answer that wave as well, or you're going to break this tower. And then if he doesn't, of course you break the tower, use that money to get back into the game. Or if he doesn't answer you and then mid lane answers you, then it really depends on that situation, right? Do you beat him in the side? But for the most part, you're going to be making someone react to you. Well, even though you're weaker in teamfights and weaker in the side, you're going to be up in tempo from the time that he breaks your tower. And if you continue to use that by basing first ahead of your lane opponent every time, then they're always going to be one step behind you answering you, even though they're so much stronger than you, they don't really have the chance to lane against you and showcase that strength. And then your mid laner can always catch this wave in this situation, but for the most part, you want to be using the wave to make people react to you and make it a 4v4, and I'm going to show you an example of that. So in this example, I'm playing Fiora versus Darius, and I'm very far behind. And I'm pretty sure I used the same example in the Fiora guide, but I want to use it again because it's such a good example of playing from behind, where here, up against this Darius, I lose the two categories, where he's better than me at teamfighting and stronger than me in the side lane. So of course, step 2, control my jungle, because if he comes back to this lane, I want to see what he's doing. But here, I just want to be, I know he's going to be basing. He's won the lane, he broke the tower, he's got a lot of gold to spend, and even if he doesn't base now, he will be basing at some point, so I want to be making him respond to me as fast as possible. And here, I don't want to freeze to get my way back into the game, I don't want to group and force a team fight, where he's stronger than me at fighting, and if I group that means he can group too. I want to be using the side lane to make him react. And something else I noticed on the map is that Dragon is spawning soon. And of course, like I talked about, most top laners, they feel pressured when they win lane, that they want to be impacting the rest of the map straight away, which is exactly what this Darius does. He wins and he sees Dragon spawning soon, so he heads straight there, and I'm pretty sure he was going there, so I backpinged my team ahead of time. But as you notice, I only pinged once, not 5 times, because I don't actually mind that much if he shows up, because I want him to react. I want him to be a part of it, and now I'm getting money. I'm getting back into the game, breaking this tower, clearing this wave, and I'm pressuring the map at this timer. Because now this wave is going to crash on the tier 2, and someone's going to have to answer it, and here I just base instantly. Even though they're still fighting, even though no one is answering me now, I know someone is going to be answering me in the future, and I don't have time to break that tier 2 right now. And here you notice, like we talked about, head straight bot. Ahri has answered me top. As you saw, if I was there, she could have potentially killed me or stopped my base, slowed down my tempo. And now I'm running straight bot, where Mr. Parry there, but this guy gives me a free kill. So of course I take it. But for the most part, I just wanted to be bot to push this wave in as fast as I can. And now that I have tier mat, it's of course a lot easier, but I want to be making people react to me. I don't want to be letting this Darius group up and carry the game. I don't want to be letting Ahri do the same thing. I want to be making someone answer me. And most of the time, it'll be the top laner that responds to you, but even if you pull the mid laner as well, if you're behind on a champ like Fiora, Garen, the strong Sidelaning Champion, it's actually good to pull the mid laner there as well. And here you notice I feel healthy enough to break this tower, to pressure this tower, and even if I did, my tempo would have been slowed down. Darius would have stopped me, and then I wouldn't have been able to get the first base off before him. It would have taken me a lot longer to base, come back on map fresh, ready to pressure the map all over again, and make him respond to me. And that concept carries into step 4, which is be very aware of your lane opponent's back timing. Because of course it's much easier to see after they kill you and break your tower, or make you base and break your tower, that they're going to be basing, but from that point on it can be a bit more challenging, where you need to be watching them like a hawk and seeing what they're doing. If they move to your team and they finish a team fight, you see they're low mana, low HP, they're probably going to base, or if they've been side laning against you for a while, and you know they've got Phage pickaxe in their inventory, they're probably going to base and buy Sterix or Hullbreaker. Stuff like that is what you want to be looking out for, because you really want to be making sure you are basing before your lane opponent. Even in some situations, you won't be able to get your item basing before him, because if you wait, if you greed stay that extra 300 gold for your item and he bases before you, now you have no chance to impact the game, because you're weaker in teamfight, you're weaker in side lane. If you're letting him base before you as well, and you're playing second fiddle, catching up to the waves that he's pushing into you, then of course you're not going to be able to do anything in that game, which is probably why you feel like you're not very impactful playing from behind, because you're just farming your items and trying to impact the game that way, where you need to be basing before your lane opponent, and then while he's in base or while he's roaming, trying to impact the game, you want to be using the waves to make him react to you, and then once he's reacted to you, now you can either make the game a 5v4 if you want to be a part of a fight for that timer, or you can just do the same thing again on the opposite side and just keep pulling people to responding to you, and eventually there'll be a timer where you can impact the game in a much bigger way. Next, I'm going to be covering how to play from behind as a teamfight champion. So let's say you've hit step 1, identify, and you notice, okay, they're a lot stronger than me in the side lane, however I still want to be teamfighting. I'm either stronger than them in a teamfight, or that's all my champion can really do. So in that situation, you want to be following the 4 steps, which are slightly different, where step 2 is similar, where you want to be controlling your jungle. So let's say, for example, it's mid-game, you're swapped to bot, you want to be controlling this bush, and then on red side, this one and this one. And now once you have that, you can see what your lane opponent is doing. So now from this point, most good players you verse, they're going to be using their strong side lane ability to keep you stuck under this tower. Because when they do so, if you ever leave, they can look to blow open the tower straight away. And if you don't, if you're stuck there, now they can fog between the lanes and make the game a 5v4. So the way to counteract that is you want to be fogging between the lanes as well. Where you want to be catching the wave as high up as you can. Most of the time that won't be very high, you'll be just outside your tower. But you don't really want to let the wave hit the tower, because some champions will proc demolish if you do so. So you want to be blocking the wave out here with your tank champ, one-shotting it as fast as you can, and then looking to fog between the lanes. And the reason you want to be fogging and not committing to the fight straight away is while you're fogging, you want to be looking at what's happening. Now, if there's a huge team fight happening mid, of course you can be a part of that, or if there's a huge team fight at Baron especially, in that situation it can be worth to drop the bot tier 2 to be a part of this Baron fight and win the game by getting Baron. But for the most part, you are just fogging to see what your lane opponent does, because he has agency in this game. Because you're far behind, you lose side to him, he has the ability to get there first. However, even though he gets there first, you're still stronger than him in the fight, and this is the best case scenario you can make, where especially if you waste time doing a camp, for example, then you can commit all the way, but for the most part, you're seeing what he does. And if he commits to the fight, then that's great. You commit as well, you make it a 5v5, but if he doesn't, if he returns back to bot and catches this wave instantly, then you need to be doing the same most of the time. Because if you don't, if you commit to this fight and it's not really a big fight, it's just a 1-for-1 or even a 1-for-2, and that's it, and he breaks a bot tier 2, now the game is going to be very hard for you. He's going to snowball off that gold, and he's going to threaten the tier 3 for Baron, and you're going to be stuck in your base. So you really don't want to be dropping your tier 2 unless you're going to be getting Baron from it, from that fight. Now you may be thinking, wait, that doesn't sound very good. I'm just reacting to this guy the whole time. I'm fogging between the lanes and seeing what he does. Yeah, well, that's just reality of the situation. You've lost your lane, you're far behind, and he's stronger than you in the side lane, so of course he has the agency. However, step 4 is where you can really start to proactively carry the game, where that's keeping tabs of when he needs to base. So let's say he commits to a fight, of course low mana, low HP, or he overstays inside and wants to buy his item, then of course now you see a situation, okay, this guy has to base, I have a really big timer. So in that case, you'll reset your wave to even, base straight away, try to base before him if you can as well. Let's say he greeds for a camp, that's even better. Buy your item and then run straight mid and force a fight. And if there's no fight to force, then you'll be forcing one around an objective. Around Baron, around Dragon is optimal, where you want to be starting the objective and making the side lane come to you. Because he just based and you've reset the wave to even. He needs time to run all the way here, clear this wave, clear the next wave before he's pressuring your tier 2, and by that time you've started the objective, you're forced to fight onto them, and you're pulling this guy away from the side lane. And I'll show you guys some examples of this, but step 4 is where you really start to impact the game from behind as a team fighting champion. Now this example is from a solo queue game I played where I have showed this in the Malphite guide, but it's just too good, where this Fiora, even though he's so far ahead of me, he is based after me. I got the base before him, so here I run straight to side, ward my jungle of course, step 2, and reset the wave either to even or one wave past even. And from now I instantly TP to this Baron and force it, because I know that if I stay inside again and there was no fight happening mid, if I didn't force it this hard, Fiora would get Hull Breaker eventually and then she'd be able to break the tier 2 in front of me. And from that point the game would be basically out of my hands. So here I punish punish. So one time Fiora had to base and couldn't keep me trapped onto the side, TP in, get Baron instantly, and now from this point it's very easy to win the game, because I can match this Fiora with Baron quite handily, and even though she's able to break the tier 2 here, our team gets Baron and we can use that Baron to gain a lot more, so it's actually worth the timer I left and the tower I gave her, because if I stayed in this lane, she would have got Hull Breaker eventually and broken it anyway, but here I was able to abuse the one window where she based late, and I was able to secure Baron off of it, and even if we didn't get the Baron, we could have got a good team fight off it if she TP'd into it. It basically would have been doing what my champ wants to do, and that was my highest chance of winning this game from behind. So up next I have an example from a pro game I played many years ago, back before I truly understood the macro for a side laner and a team fighter, and here I make a massive mistake, where I recall where I didn't really need to. All I based for was a BF sword, and that gives Cho'Gath an opportunity, where he wants to be teamfighting in this game, but before this point I had him stuck under the tier 3, I was pressuring, I would eventually break it, and then if he sent people to help him, my team would get Baron, and if he moved to help his team get Baron, then I would end the game basically. So here the only time that he can impact the game is when I base, and here I base for no reason, which is such a big mistake, because he has an opportunity where he runs straight mid, like we talked about, and he forces Baron for his team. Where if he didn't do this and he waited for me to get back to lane, then of course eventually I'd break the inhib in front of him and he wouldn't be able to really do anything without giving my team Baron. But now I was able to, even though I broke the inhib in this game, it's not ideal. We were winning before this point, I was so far ahead, where I had to trade inhib for Baron, where before this point if I didn't waste my recall, eventually my team would have either gotten Baron from my pressure, or I would have eventually gotten the inhib. Now, before I wrap it up, the 4-step process may be pretty hard for you to apply in your games straight away, but the mindset I want you guys to be taking into your games is when you're playing from behind on a side-laning champion, your job is to make them react to you and make the game a 4v4. If they don't react to you, you're going to get structures and that gold will get you back into the game eventually. Now, the mindset you'll be having on a teamfight champion is create opportunities to be a part of the teamfights by punishing their mistakes. Punish their bad move, punish their bad back timer, and eventually you'll be able to be a part of a team fight even though they beat you in the side lane. And then if you're ever in a game where you don't win side and you're not stronger in team fights, then you just want to be punishing their bad back timers to either get pressure in the side or to create a 5v4 team fight situation. Okay guys, I'm going to end it there, and this has been a topic that a lot of my students and members of my Discord in general have been asking me about for a while now, so I'm glad I finally got to get it done. And if you have any questions as usual, you can ask me in the comments, but I strongly recommend to join the Discord. You can talk directly to me, other students, other top laners, and someone's going to be able to help you out, and you're going to be able to help them in topics that you excel at. So I hope to see you there, but if not, I'll see you guys next time.